Before we get started on creating our doors and windows for the building here, let's talk a minute about smoothing and face normals. If we look at our building now, we can see that even though there were 32 polygons around this cylinder, it's still looking rather faceted. We can actually see the polygons of the object very plainly. But if I select the object and come over here and click the Smooth button in the Tools tab, we can see it smooths that out quite a bit. The problem is it also smooths out the parts that we wanted to stay sharp, like the rims on the top and the bottom here. Now there are a couple of ways to solve this. One is to tab into Edit mode, select Edges, and actually split these by choosing Edge Split. So I'm going to press Control E, and we could split that edge so that the top rim and the middle of the cylinder are actually two separate pieces. So let's try that. So if I click that, it will split those pieces out. Now, if we look at it in smooth mode, that edge is a lot sharper. But the problem with that is when we take it into Unity, we're going to be able to see into that seam. And it's usually not a desirable effect. So I'm going to undo that. Another way to solve this is just to actually add a couple of new edge loops. So if I tab into Edit mode and press Control Tab and select Edge, now I'm going to press Control R to insert an edge loop. I'll scroll the mouse wheel and click. So now I have two edge loops. And I'll go to my Scale tool and scale these up so they're closer to the top and the bottom rim of the object. Now if I go back into object mode, you can see that those edges are being held a little tighter. I think this way looks best in Unity. However, it adds polygons to your object, and that's not always a desirable thing. But this is such a low poly object as it is, I don't think it's going to be a problem. So for the windows, I think I'd like them just to be kind of like portals, round portal windows. So I'm going to go to another layer here, and I'll go ahead and create a cylinder. And I don't need as many faces as I had on the original cylinder. So I'll change 32 to 12 and hit enter. So now we have only 12 faces around our cylinder. And for the cat fill, I'll change that from N-gon to triangle fan. If I would have left it at N-gon, the top piece of this cylinder would be an N-gon, would be a polygon that has more than 4 sides. So I'll zoom in with the period key on the numpad. And let's scale this in the Z-axis so it's more like a window portal. And I'll tab into Edit mode, press Control Tab and go to Face mode. I'll hit the A key to deselect everything, and then I'll press the C key to choose Circle Select. And with this, I can just click and drag over faces to select them. I'll right-click to get out of that tool. And now, let's extrude this in to create the rim of the window. I'll hit the E key and then click. And now I'll hit the S key and scale this in a bit. And then again for extrude, I'll hit the E key and I'll drag straight down, and that'll be the glass pane portion of the window right there. All right, let's tab back into object mode, and in the Tools tab, I'll click Smooth. And now we get kind of the same problem we had before. Our edges that we want to be sharp have been kind of smoothed over. So I'll tab back into Edit mode, and with this glass portion still selected, I'm going to extrude that and go straight to my Scale tool. I'll click and hit the S key, and I'm going to scale this in just a tad to give me an edge there. And I think I'll do the same thing out here. I'll press Control R and insert an edge loop right out here. And I'll go back to object mode with the Tab key, and that differentiates the edges a little bit there. Now on the bottom, I don't need the faces here because this portion isn't going to be seen. So I'll press Control Tab, go to Face mode, press the C key, and I'll circle select these faces. right click to get out of that, and then I'll just press X and delete faces. All right. I'm going to press Shift and click this layer and then bring this window out so we can see it. I'll go to the Move tool and just slide this out like so. Now you can see from my concept sketches here that the windows are placed kind of haphazardly throughout. And I'd like to keep that feeling, but I think I'll do that by creating several different versions of the building rather than trying to place the windows in Unity. I'd like to bring multiple versions of the building into Unity that I can then place in the environment. So to place this window, I'll go to the Rotate tool and I'm going to rotate this around the X-axis, and I'm going to press the N key to come in and take a look at my rotation here. I'll change this to 90 degrees. And now let's see if we can place this on the cylinder. I'll drag it up and put it on. And that's about what I'm looking for. Looking at the reference, I think that's a little too big, so I'll scale that down. And let's see how this works. So I'm thinking something like that. So to place multiple windows around the building, I'm going to need to change the pivot point of the window. I've got the 3D cursor in the center of the grid here, and if yours isn't there, you can always press Shift S and move the cursor to the center. And now I'm going to change the pivot point from median to 3D cursor. So when I select this object now, you can see that its pivot point has been moved to the 3D cursor. We can see the manipulator tool down here now. So if I switch to the Rotate tool, I should be able to rotate this object right around the building. So I'll press Shift D to duplicate, click, and then I'll rotate this around. I'll press Shift D again and click, and then rotate this new one around as well. And one more time, Shift D, and move this one around. Maybe I'll take these two here and move them down a bit. I'm going to change the pivot point back to the median of the objects and just move these down a hair. So now that the windows are in place, let's take a look at how to create a door. Just like before, I'm going to go to a brand new layer. And for the door, I think what I'll do is create another cylinder. And the previous settings have been saved here. So I've got 12 sides, and the cap fill is still at triangle fan, and that's fine. In my reference sketches, and they really were just kind of sketches, I've got doors with flat tops here, and I've got doors with round tops here. And I think I might go with the round tops. I think they look a little bit better with the circular windows. So let's work on one of those. So once again, I'll scale this cylinder down like this. And I'll go ahead and delete the back faces with the C key and circle select. And I'll select these faces as well, and once again extrude and scale in so I get a rim around the door here. And I'll go ahead and hit extrude and bring that down as well, just like we did for the window. But this time I'm going to delete the bottom half of this. So I'll press the Z key to go into wireframe, and I'll press the B key to border select this area of the cylinder. I'll then press X and delete faces. And now if I press the Z key again, I've got what is the beginnings of the top of the door. So I'll go to Edge mode and select this edge. And now I'll just hit E and I'll click and I'll drag out in the Y here to begin creating the bottom of the door. I'll do this a couple times. Something like that. We'll see how that fits on the building. I'll go ahead and rotate this. Around the x-axis, I'll type in 90 degrees. And now I'll bring these pieces back with Shift and click on the layers. And let's move this out and see how it looks. So now let's put it into place. To look at it from the side view, I'm going to press the 3 key on the numpad and then the 5 key to go into orthographic view. And I just want to bring this door down so it's right at the bottom of the object, right here. There we go. So I'll hit the 5 key to go back to perspective and tumble back around. Now I'd like to smooth this object like we did the others. So in the Tools tab, I'll click Smooth, but that kind of collapses the edges again like we had before. I'll just insert a couple of edge loops to try and make sure the edges look the way we want them to. So there we have the basis of our building. This one building will modify, change the placement of the windows and the doors, and we'll use this to create multiple versions that we'll then take into Unity.